It is time now for a look at the press. I'm joined by Elena Casas. Tell us, Elena, what's happening in what was making headlines rather in France today.
Hello again, Melissa. Well, there's a handshake on the front of a lot of French papers today. The two main rivals for France's presidency, Nicolas Sarkozy, François Hollande, shook each other's hand last night. That was at a dinner for France's biggest Jewish lobby organisation, where Nicolas Sarkozy gave a speech and saying he would support Israel. He also met Gilad Shalit, the Franco-Israeli soldier who spent 4 years in captivity in Gaza, and his parents at the Elysee yesterday. And Hollande was also at that dinner, shaking hands, pressing the flesh, warming up to France's Jewish community. So the paper is asking, they of course are trying to win over France's 600,000 Jewish voters, but do they really vote based on the candidate's Israel policy, or do Jewish voters in France vote not as a bloc like they famously do in America, for example, but really based on economic concerns or the concerns that everybody has? Well, they asked various experts who aren't entirely sure. One of them says that it's anti-Semitic to even suggest that a Jewish vote lobby exists, but another says that yes, people are swayed by the Israel policy of a candidate. The Jewish organisation who organised last night's dinner don't support one candidate or another, but they have spoken out against the left-wing candidate Jean-Luc Mélenchon and the Green candidate Eva Joly, because they both in the past have supported a boycott of Israeli products in France, so that didn't go down well with them. The paper also says, quite bizarrely given the party's history of anti-Semitism, that some Jews might be pushed to vote for the Front National because they're worried about Islamic influence in France.
There's no escaping politics, of course, at the moment, Elena, with the elections coming up and so on. And, of course, with this ongoing case, the Bettencourt case, former Budget Minister Eric Woerth has been put under investigation.
He has indeed. Of course, that's for allegedly receiving €150,000 in cash from France's richest woman, Liliane Bettencourt, to finance Sarkozy's previous election campaign back in 2007. This is on the front page of the communist paper L'Humanité today. Woerth, the clinking chain, is their headline. And that chain, of course, leads straight from him to President Sarkozy. That's what they're saying inside, that it's not really Woerth who is under investigation in what's called the Woerth affair, but it's a whole system that's grown up around Nicolas Sarkozy, what they call a corrupt system of shady friends, unofficial advisors and businessmen who have not terribly clear financial links to some of France's richest people. And they say it's Sarkozy's whole system of governance that's under question. But of course, it's interesting as we go into this election campaign to look at campaign finance, because Woerth's trial or possible trial is all to do with the finance of the previous election campaign. So what exactly are the candidates doing to collect money for this one? Now, inside Le Monde, there's an interesting piece about this. They're looking really at how the different political parties are managing to get around the legal limits on how much people can donate to a political party, which legally is set at €4,600 for each candidate and €7,500 for a party. But they say, for example, if you take a very rich donor, if he's got a wife and 2 adult children, you can multiply all those sums by 4 because it's per person, and so that way end up donating nearly €50,000 completely legally to one political party. There's also a trend for politicians to invent their own political parties, so nearly all the cabinet ministers, for example, have their own, so that a rich donor can then donate to each one of them individually, but all of those will eventually be combined into that campaign of Nicolas Sarkozy. So it's all rather complex.
I had always wondered why there was such an extraordinary array of political parties in France. Now I know. The French Cour des Comptes, we've been talking a great deal about France's public finances, of course, over the last few weeks and months. The French Cour des Comptes, which is a sort of audit commission, has come up with its own findings.
Yes, they audit the public finances, as you say, and they've come up with an annual report yesterday, which is not very good news. The front page of business paper Les Echos today is a warning from the Cour des Comptes, and the warning is bad news for outgoing President Nicolas Sarkozy, but probably even worse for whoever the incoming president is, because they say that none of the candidates have sufficient public spending cuts in their programme to cut France's deficit quickly enough.
French, we were just hearing in the news there, Elena, about the French charity Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, and its report on what's been happening in Syria.
Yes, that's made the front page of Libération today, Syria tortured. Now, a lot of this makes very distressing reading because they've taken a lot of the direct witness testimony of victims of torture that are in that report and published them today, so people who've suffered extraordinary, dreadful things. They also have an interesting report there about, according to them, some elements of the French intelligence services that are linked to very right-wing groups are still in Damascus supporting or advising Bashar al-Assad. Basically, they say some right-wing groups support something that Jean-Marie Marie Le Pen said the other day, which is that the West is trying to deliberately push out Assad in order so that he can be replaced with Islamists. That might sound like a sort of extreme far-right opinion, but according to them, there are some elements in the French intelligence service that support that view.
Elena Casas with a look there at all that's in the French papers. Thanks very much indeed.